right, Robert, here we are at Yardbird, one of the best bourbon bars in America, from what I understand. Thanks for inviting us into the bar today.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
So, Robert, you know, every bartender has a story. How did you get into the business? What was your passion point when the aha moment hit you?
Well, I started out as a kitchen guy a long time ago. Made the jump to the front of the house, waited tables, and then I went in one day for a serving job, and the guy that ran the place told me they didn't have any serving jobs available, but they needed a bartender, so I said, give me a shot. If I stink, you can get rid of me. Give me a couple weeks.
How do we go about a tasting of bourbon?
It's not as complicated as you think. So you start with appearance. You know, You're going to take a look at it, swirl around, look at the color. You know, it's a nice golden color.
And these all have very different colors too.
They do. You know, that's basically all comes from the barrel. Then you're going to give it a nose. So your aroma.
Wow, so that was really sweet.
It does have a sweet nose. That's one of the good characteristics of bourbon, is it's very inviting when you bring it to your face and you take that whiff.
Oh yeah, that's a great one, smooth.
Very smooth. That's a wheated bourbon, so it's going to be light. You're going to get a lot of the corn. It's going to sing instead of being drowned out by the rye.
And really great flavors in this one too. I mean, it's got the caramel is coming through. You've got, it's a little salty as well.
You can taste all those barrel notes, you know, and that's why particularly I enjoy a wheated bourbon. It allows you to really appreciate the age on it. The wood they use.
What is it that makes the colors come through differently?
Well, you know, a little bit about the mash bill, type of grain they use, how much distillate they use, and then more importantly, it's the wood. It's the charred American oak.
Okay.
You know, it depending on how much char they put on the barrel and how long it sits in that barrel is going to determine the color and ultimately the flavonoids that move into the liquid.
Beautiful. So what am I looking at here?
So that's 1792 by Ridgemont.
A little lighter. Is that a little
lighter? That's a rye forward bourbon. You're going to have about the same color. It is a tiny bit lighter. That's the official toasting bourbon of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
Okay.
So it's a good one to try and kind of have on your radar.
This one has not as much of an aroma as this one here.
That's the rye.
Okay.
The rye is really taking over. This is a really rye forward bourbon. You'll see once you taste it. It's all rye.
Really powerful too.
Very powerful.
So you're just trying to get me drunk.
Exactly. This is one of my favorites right here.
All right, so number 3 here for us.
That's the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon.
Much darker.
Much darker.
Okay. This one I think you could smell all day. This is a really good one, I can tell.
And it matches up. These two, what you smell and what you taste, are vastly different. This is more consistent from start to finish.
Oh, wow.
And even with the aftertaste.
So that's my new favorite right there.
That's a good one. Now that's limited. You're not going to find that everywhere.
See, this one's so good we got to taste it again.
You have to.
I love these. This is one of those complex spirits that really likes to stand on its own. So how do you do a cocktail with something that's saying, hey, I'm so powerful, you can't make a cocktail around me? What are some of the ideas you got to come up with there?
I think that's a common misconception of brown spirits. I mean, the original cocktails were typically made with brown spirits.
Interesting.
I mean, they were much more basic in their creation. We find the cocktail program is a really good way to get people acquainted with and comfortable with bourbon.
Yeah.
And start to build that relationship. And then you'll have people that come in and start off with our Blackberry bourbon lemonade or our pork chop, and then move into becoming a seasoned bourbon drinker.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into some cocktails. What are we going to see?
This is the Blackberry bourbon lemonade. This is the star of the show here at Yardbird.
Okay.
It's been with us since we opened and is just one of our staples.
Right. So what do you use in this one?
This is Buffalo Trace bourbon.
Okay.
We do a little shot of Angostura bitters, cardamom pod, crack that open with a muddler, blackberry puree, lemon juice, simple syrup, a little bit of soda water, top it off.
Wow, that's a really great drink.
It's bright, clean.
Yeah, and you can still pull the flavors and the notes of the bourbon in quite nicely. Is there something with this particular mix that helps enhance the bourbon? As far as the
cardamom brings out some of the barrel note, the bitters as well.
Okay.
You know, we balance that with the blackberry, which isn't too sweet. It's
Right.
a little tart, so we still let the bourbon shine through.
Yeah.
This is the pork chop. This calls on more classic culinary pairings. Dijon mustard, yuzu juice. Okay, so those are, that's why we call it the pork chop, a little bit of apple cider. Those are flavors you would typically find accompanying a pork dish.
Okay.
And we love pork here as well, so you'll see the bourbon shines through on that. It's a little tart, you get that mustard.
Interesting. That's almost got a savory taste to it.
It's the Dijon mustard and the cider work really well together.
That's a good mix. I like that. You find more and more bartenders going to using savory ingredients in mixes like this, which is really good. I think this would be good with a nice big pork chop.
Killer.
Yeah, beautiful. So when you look at designing menus or coming up with cocktails that kind of enhance the bourbon approach, what are the go-tos you got to have in a great bourbon cocktail?
There is no one go-to ingredient. You just have to pick and choose carefully.
Yeah.
And get the best ingredients possible.
Right.
And be sure not to use too many of them at the same time. Otherwise, you just lose the message.
Kind of blow it up, yeah.
And honestly, the best ingredient for a killer bourbon cocktail is a killer bourbon.
Yeah, right, absolutely. I feel like the bourbon shines through this drink a little bit more than this one.
It's a little simpler in its preparation, so the bourbon comes through a little more. This is a little more fancy.
Yeah, kind of masks it a little bit. This could probably be dangerous, I think, if you're not ready for a bourbon cocktail.
It'll get you in trouble on a Sunday afternoon, I'll tell you.
I love it. Robert, this has been a blast spending some time with you, learn a little bit more about bourbon right here in what I feel is the South. We just happen to be in Miami South Beach.
Deep South.
Very South. It's been great. Thanks for letting us stop in.
Hey, thanks for stopping by.